Hey, how's it going? I wanted to check in with you all to make sure that you are successfully completing this course and continue to build upon your course. First thing to know, despite the fact that many of you in this course are still struggling or are struggling, it's not too late. The problem with this course is the way it was scheduled. I have nothing to do when these courses are put into this semester. If I had anything to do with that, it would have been available just now, because I'm sure a lot of you are actually were taking classes that just wrapped up in the fall. That's too much. This course requires, as any mini-mester, requires a great deal of time to succeed, to successfully complete. With that said, it's not too late. So the exam, the exam that's coming up for Units 4 and 5 is a good opportunity to catch up, to go to those lectures and prepare the lecture essays that you might not have gotten to. And so now is the time. But you're going to have to put in the hours, and let me emphasize the hours. Some of you, looking at your grades, I wouldn't be surprised if you need to dedicate between now and next week a good 5 to 6 hours a day preparing for this course to successfully complete it. So keep that in mind. A college course requires a respectable amount of effort in order for really to count for anything. So do put in the necessary time. Now, I'm offering some extra credit. The extra credit I'm offering is up to 5% extra credit will be applied to your previous exam, Exam 3, if you complete what is required by the 17th, 2 days from now, by 11:59. So you email me your response. The first part of your response requires the following. Email me what it is you're going to write on for your final essay. So you're required to do that for your orientation exam, but some of you might have changed your mind, or you just need to think about it again. So email me your prompt, and in that prompt, write about a paragraph explaining the following. What references you're going to use from this course. So cite them. Cite them in Chicago-Turabian. There are links available in the assignment sheet, so click on those links and learn what Chicago-Turabian is just by following the examples that are provided. If those examples don't help you, just Google Chicago-Turabian and it will explain how to cite properly in a history paper. And Chicago-Turabian is what we use in history courses. Also, in that paragraph, explain how to respond to that essay prompt, what it is you think that essay prompt is asking of you, and give me a few sentences addressing how you're going to generally respond, and perhaps even specifically respond to that essay prompt. Talk about some of the timelines that you're going to be taking a look at when you are responding to that. That's part of the essay prompt. So that's part of the extra credit. There'll be more extra credit instructions at the end of this video, so stay tuned. So I'm going to actually go into screen capture here to point out a few things regarding the identifications and essay prompt. Okay, what I have in front of us here is the guidelines to the identifications that I have gone over in the orientation and in the last video announcements from last week. But I want to go over it once again to make sure, because many students, in fact I think all of the students in this course, are not coming anywhere close to complying what's necessary for an identification in this class. So, and you really should be. I mean, this is an open note class. If you have your notes prepared ahead of time, you should be able to apply to these guidelines. So, but let's go over them once again, and then I'm going to give you an example of a student who really was able to successfully complete each of these IDs. Okay. So let's read it. An identification consists of an important person, event, or term. To complete an ID, you should do the following. Explain the pertinent information, the who, what, why, where, when, why, how, all that kind of stuff, right? The basics, right? Now, a lot of you are providing some of the basics in maybe a brief sentence, sometimes 2 sentences. Do look down here. You have to, well, you don't have to, but if you're expecting to be successful in this course, you should strive for at least 5 to 6 sentences. Right, a paragraph, perhaps even 2 paragraphs. Right. So the other part, number 2 here, explain the historical significance. This is quite important if you want to be successful in this course. So you want to understand why it matters, why that term matters, how it's connected to perhaps other terms. So for example, House of Burgesses. Students often just explain when it was founded, that it was a legislative body in Jamestown. That's nice, and that's about a sentence or 2. But you can also connect it to another identification, salutary neglect, since House of Burgesses is a prominent example of salutary neglect. And then in that identification, you could offer maybe a sentence about what exactly salutary neglect is and why it is significant and what makes the House of Burgesses significant within the context of salutary neglect. All right, so those are the things you should be striving for as you're preparing for in this course. So let's take a look at a student who responded to this identification, Henry Clay. So here is her response. During this time, Henry Clay was referred to as the American system. Now that's not quite a great sentence, but it's a time test, and I understand when sentences are a little bit clumsy. Basically what she's conveying there is that he's given credit for the so-called American system. His idea of how to get the American economy independent and vibrant within the context of the global economy during the antebellum period prior to the Civil War. So she gives some great information just about who, why, what, where, when Henry Clay was. And further explains, again, she comes right in the bat, this is what's most significant about Henry Clay is his American system, and explains that it was the 3 elements of the American system, that it had to do with a tariff, with infrastructure, and with the bank. There's some other things that she could have pointed in here. She could have talked about her rivalry with Andrew Jackson and whatnot, but for the most part, this is what you should be striving for. This kind of caliber is what you should be striving for when it comes to an identification. If you're just writing, this is what I'm typically getting a sentence from students in this course. If you're writing something like that, you should be expecting to earn no more than a 7 out of a 10 on these things. Now let's briefly take a look at one of her essays here. Each of her paragraphs are at least 3 to 4 sentences, if not 5 to 6 sentences per paragraph. She covers each learning objective and then gives examples of how to respond to the generalizations within those learning objectives. So she's bringing in examples from the required reading as well as from the lectures themselves. So just wanted to show you an example of somebody who really did put in the time and the effort to, and I'm just going to give you, just kind of go through so you can just see the length that the student went through and in responding to each identification and lecture essay. All right, just to show you that a sentence or 2 or 1 to 2 sentences per paragraph within a lecture essay, what I'm seeing from a lot of students isn't going to cut it in this course. You might end up earning a C, perhaps D if you keep that up, and if that's your goal, then great, you've accomplished something. But I would hope that if you're in a college course, you would be striving to earn a B or an A in this course. in any course that you apply yourself to. And it's possible, right? It's very possible. You just have to put the time and work into it. I'm going to go back to the camera here and give you some tips on how to succeed on 3 things. 1, the final essay. 2, the identifications. And 3, the essay. So here we go. Okay, here comes the second part of your extra credit. So hopefully you watch this so you will get the extra credit, because that's the extra credit will be a zero-sum game. You either get it or you don't. If you don't, if it's not complete and thorough, then you will not get credit for it. Okay, the first part of realizing how to be successful on the final essay is to work as you go, right? Students often struggle, and it's unnecessary to struggle with an assignment like this. Sure, effort is involved, a degree of stress, as in any college course, thinking, being alone with your thoughts, second-guessing yourself, all of that is involved. But really, fundamentally, struggling with assignment is optional if you work as you go. Right? And the way you work as you go is this tool here. When I was told how to use this tool by a college professor when I was a sophomore in college, I wish I was told this when I was a freshman in college. It was a blessing, because it really does help writing any kind of big essay. And this, I'll tell you how index cards can also help with the IDs and the lecture essays as well in just a little bit. But this here for the final essay will help you quite a bit. So working as you go, as you're just preparing for the exams, viewing the lecture essays and the required chapters, the required reading for this course. As you come across information that seems to help you respond to the essay prompt that you've chose, write it down, whether it's a quote or a reference to some legislation or a presidential election or a war or a historical individual. Just write that information down. And on the other side, where did you get that information? Right? Did you get it from the lecture on the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution or the Age of Expansion or Chapter 2, Section 1? Whatever the case is. You want to put that there so you don't have to, at the when it's time to write your paper, digging through your notes in your mind, trying to figure out where did I get that information, right? So you got when you're done, if you work as you go, you might have a stack that looks like this when it comes time to write the paper. When you're ready, just simply put these cards out on a table and just look at them. And what often happens, more often than not, is that some sort of logical sequence will jump out at you. It could be by date, it could be by theme, whatever the case is. A good way of organizing it is by units, right? Do you have enough information for Unit 1? Do you have enough information for Unit 2? So on and so forth, because you need to address each unit with whatever essay prompt you choose. So keep that in mind. These essays are comprehensive. They have to address the material from the beginning of the course to the end of the course, from the colonial period all the way up to the Civil War. So that might be a good way of organizing your cards. This is a great way of writing a paper like this, because instead of going through a bunch of notes or going through some chapters that you might have not have read thoroughly, you have already done this for yourself, and you won't have to do it again. And it'll save you just a lot of steps if you work as you go, and a lot of stress and anxiety. So you can actually submit something that's going to earn you a grade that you'll be proud of, and that you can move on to the next step in your college career. And what you'll find too is the writing begins to kind of do itself if you've done this thoroughly and diligently, again, working as you go. So index cards for the essay prompt. Let's move on to IDs. Also work as you go for the IDs, and use also index cards. On one side, write the identification. On the other side, write a response to that identification. And when you're ready to take the exam, you might have a stack that looks like this. Before you take the exam, every once in a while, drill yourself so you have some sort of familiarity with it, so you're not referring to your notes exclusively when you're taking the exam. Since they're timed, you don't have the time to do such a thing. So if you have some familiarity with it, the exams are going to be a lot more tolerable, and your ability to succeed will be enhanced quite a bit if you take the necessary steps to prepare. And this is a necessary step to prepare. For the lecture essays, 1, work as you go, and 2, yes, index cards. They are very helpful. On one side, right, the learning objective on one side, right? So for each essay prompt, you're going to have anywhere from 3 to 4 index cards. On one side, write the learning objective. On the other side, write 3 to 4 brief bullet points indicating a general response to that learning objective, not the complete response to it. Though if that helps, then do it. But what I'm suggesting is to write it briefly, so when you drill yourself, you can quickly go, okay, those are the fine points on it. And what you could do in preparation is practice writing your lecture essay using your index cards, going, okay, because you have to have each learning objective in your essay prompt. Go, learning objective 1, okay, I've got for the American Revolution, okay, I've got that. I've got the 5 factors, because they're written right here, for the American Revolution. Now, what are the details of the American Revolution? You might need to go back to your notes to practice writing that essay before you take your exam. If you practice writing your essay before you take the exam, you will have some sort of familiarity with the material, so you won't have to refer to your notes as much when you're taking the exam. Because that's one of the #1 complaints I get from students. Why are the exams timed? Well, they're timed because you are required to be familiar enough with the identifications and with the lecture essays to where you should be referring to your notes rarely, if at all. And the way you do that is you prepare properly. And this is a good tool for that. Okay, that's all I have for this. Do email me if you have any questions or concerns. I'm on vacation, and since I'm on vacation, I am your humble servant. So if you need anything, let me know. I'll just be waiting around either in my office or at home, waiting for any kind of questions or concerns you might want to express to me. So do contact me. I'm here for you. But make sure you do contact me if you have those questions and you are preparing. So use this opportunity. The exam is not due this weekend, or the quiz isn't due this weekend. You have a week and a half to prepare for it. So do so. And okay, and for your, I almost forgot about this, but for the last part of your extra credit to get 5% towards your exam 3, explain specifically the 3 tips I just gave you. Don't just say I use index cards and work as you go. Specifically, how are you going to be successful with the final essay prompt? How are you going to be successful with the IDs? How are you going to be responsible with the lecture essay? So specifically explain in your email the advice I have just given you. All right, 5% extra credit. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Work diligently. You're going to have to put the hours in, but this time will go by just like any time goes by, so you might as well do the work necessary. Take care.